Welcome to the My Lotus Moments podcast, the podcast for women of color to have open and honest dialogue about experiences that we all share, from dating, relationships, mental health, and everything in between. I'm your host, Hope Coleman, a licensed social worker and mental health advocate and coach. To get more information and resources, visit the website at www.hopeinher.com. Let's get started. Hey guys, and welcome back to episode 26 of the My Lotus Moments podcast. As you may know, July is Minority Mental Health Awareness Month. And for those of you who may struggle with depression or anxiety, I brought on my girl Courtney Jacobs to talk about what it's like dating while depressed. Let me tell you a little bit about Courtney. Courtney Jacobs has had 27 years of performance experience studying all over the United States, receiving instruction from the likes of Debbie Allen, Renee Chatelain, Avery Wilson, Arnold, Jonas Vanderbilt, and many more. She is fluent in nearly 10 different forms of dance. As a former Southern University Dancing Doll and Golden Blues member, background dancer, and opening performer to chart-topping artists such as Cupid, Keisha Cole, Young Jeezy, Trey Songz, B5, Plies, Souljah Boy, and many more, she is no stranger to performing and loves to teach and execute her craft. She is the recipient of the 2013 Best Female Featured Dancer New V Award for her work in The Wiz as the Emerald City Fashionista, and she later choreographed New Venture Theater's Women of Brewster Place and Shout. She coached the Accelerate Jasper dance team to a Red Line National Championship in 2015. She is currently coaching the Florida Lead Dance team at West Feliciana High in St. Francisville, Louisiana, and teaching technique and jazz at Winter Dance Company in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. She is also the owner and operator of Courtney Arnold. Miss Courtney Jacobs.
Hi.
Thank you for joining me today. I'm so
No
excited
problem.
to have you. So today we're going to talk about being depressed while dating.
All right, fun.
So what do you think about just the idea of dating? First of all, dating in 2018 is a mess.
Complete mess.
Adding other things on top of that, sometimes it just makes me feel ugh.
Right. It's unfortunately it's a unnecessary pressure.
It's true. That is true. So share your story with the audience. Let us know how long you've been single, what your dating experience has been like. Yeah, let us know.
Okay. So from 2008 to 2016, I was single. Just
2008. 8 years.
8 years. I was single.
Okay, yeah.
Like, I would date people here and there, but wouldn't get completely into a relationship. And just everyone sent their representative. They just didn't.
Like we all do, though, right?
Right.
We all
and
do
then
that.
you come up with these huge discoveries of, I'm dating someone that I don't even know, you know?
Yeah.
They have double lives and all kinds of stuff. So then I got into a relationship in 2016 with someone I'd known for almost 30 years.
Okay.
And even that went south. So I've been single for almost a year again.
You know, I've been struggling with anxiety and depression. And so I've just decided, like, how would that fit into my dating life? Share with us, how does that fit into your dating life? Is that something that you struggle with as well?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, it's part of life for me. I deal with bipolar depression.
Okay.
I deal with bipolar disorder. So for me, that adds a whole nother layer to dating. Like, I have to have that conversation, you know, and it's not always something I'm prepared to do. But when I feel that I really like somebody, I have to say, okay, you can either tell them now, you can tell them later, or they can discover it later. Either way, you run the chance of losing. Yeah. And at the end of the day, we don't want to lose.
Right.
So I choose to do it up front because I would rather you know what you're getting yourself into and make that choice for yourself if it's something you want to deal with. But the whole just bipolar depression on top of anxiety of having to learn someone new, you know, I'm 31 at such, you know, so what I feel is late in the game. It causes a lot of anxiety. Then when things don't work out, you kind of do fall into a depression. Yeah. Right. It does. You're like, okay, I've done everything right. I've done, you know, my mama taught me to do this, and this. You know, my mom's been in a relationship forever in a day. Yeah. And why is this not working for me? The reality is we try to make people be ready for things they're not ready for. Exactly. You know, we put them on timelines.
Exactly. So, but let's get back to your bipolar depression. Tell us a little bit about your story. When were you diagnosed? What's it actually been like living with it?
So I was diagnosed in 2011 with bipolar depression. To be perfectly honest, I've known that I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder in 2011 and then bipolar depression in the same year. But I've known since 2004 that something was different about me. I had some friends like, what is wrong with you? I'd gotten the nickname Crazy Courtney.
So what was that triggered that nickname?
I reacted to things differently than the people around me. You know, people weigh out things. I was just like off a handlebar at the most minute disagreement. I'm like screaming and yelling and storming off and they're like, something is serious and wrong with you. And then at some point when you have so many people telling you something is serious and wrong with you, you have to accept that, hey, it is you. Right. You're the common denominator and you need to address it.
So what kind of arguments will set you off?
I will never forget this one time in high school. Sadie Hawkins, we're trying to figure out, my friendship circle is trying to figure out where we're going to eat for Sadie Hawkins. Now, I kind of came from a stricter background. Like, my mom gave me freedom, but she was a single parent and she kind of kept her thumb on me. Right. They wanted to go to Hooters. In high school, not on my own.
Did you go to like a private school?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah, my mom. I was like, yeah, my mom's not going for this. Right. I was like, besides which, I'm not trying to look at somebody's body parts while I'm eating. And they're like, it's chicken. It's good. The food's good. The atmosphere is fine. I was like, I am not going. Like, wow. I'm loose. And they're like, you know what? My friends are like, we're not dealing with this anymore. Like, you need to address what's going on with you. And until you do, we can't be friends anymore. That was like the aha moment. So you got to admit it.
Fast forward to 2011, you were diagnosed.
Yes.
What was that like?
I'd come out of the military. I was released from the Navy. I was diagnosed with epilepsy in the Navy. So I ended up going through therapy after that. And I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder there. So I'm like, okay, this is a whole nother realm for me. Like, I knew something was wrong, but now I have the answer. So what do you do? Delve a little deeper and realize that my dad dealt with mental illness and he never said anything. And it just kind of all came out at one time in, you know, medical history, that kind of thing. And so from that point on, I had to deal with the adjusting to medication, realizing that when you have these mood swings, it's not always something you can control. It's something that happens because of a chemical imbalance in your brain. Once you realize that, hey, it's not always you. It's an imbalance you have to deal with. When you can accept that and not stigmatize yourself, it makes life a little bit easier. Yeah. Yeah. However, not everyone sees it that way. Right. You know, especially in dating.
I don't know if that was hard or easy for you, but I do know a lot of women struggle. And, you know, sometimes society now labels the smallest emotional change as, oh, you bipolar. And I'm like, no.
They have to put a tag on it.
Exactly.
So put a title on it.
That's why it's so hard for people who actually do have the mental illness to be able to share their own stories, because it's so stigmatized. Yeah. You only see things in the media that shows like the negative part of it, right?
Right. And then sometimes the media doesn't even show it accurately. For instance, personal opinion here, you know, Empire, they touched on Andre with the bipolar disorder, when honestly he shows more signs of schizophrenia. You know, there's a difference between the two.
Over the past 10 years, how has dating for you changed since you've been diagnosed?
Like I said, this dating in 2018 is just a circus.
Yeah.
My mindset has had to change. I've had to realize what the priority is for me in dating. You know, it's finding someone, not this fairy tale anymore. It's finding someone that accepts me for me, that doesn't exactly judge my manic days or my isolated days, you know, because that's a thing for me. Somebody that understands that I need space sometimes, and then the other times I'm going to be all under you.
So, but you take medication, right?
Well, I used to.
So not anymore?
No. I have weaned myself off the medication. I've chosen a holistic approach. And I didn't like it because I felt like it sedated me to a point where it took like my personality away. And I was just a zombie. Like there was no real life in me. To me, that as a creative, it feels like it took me as a person away. So I decided to go holistic so that I would not block my creativity and I would keep my personality while dealing with it.
You know who you sound like right now?
Who?
Kanye West. That sounds exactly like what something Kanye West would say. But I'm sorry, that just kind of triggered something. But what was that transition like for you? Did you just stop?
It was rough.
Or did you just, how did you do it?
One thing I did not do was go cold turkey.
Yeah.
I got to the point where I was taking medication every day. And then I started going to 6 days a week. I wouldn't take it on Sundays. And then I did that for like 3 months. And then I went to 5 days a week. And I would do it in like 3-month phases because I know that going cold turkey off of medication that you've been on for 2.5 years is a recipe for disaster. It's going to get you stuck. You're going to spiral out of it way too fast.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, sometimes people do that and honestly, they end up suicidal.
And that's exactly what I wanted to get to.
I didn't want to get to
a lot of people who take medication for depression, and sometimes when they do stop, or even, you know, when they are taking it, they have suicidal thoughts. But I know those thoughts get worse if you just quit suddenly.
Yes.
And so that's exactly why I wanted you to address how did you teeter off your medication, and did you do that with a medical professional?
Yes.
You told them?
Yes, I did tell them. Honestly, they advised me against it.
Really?
But I felt like who I am as a person was more important to me than medication.
Yeah. But here's the big thing for me. I went to one doctor. No, she was a psychologist, and I only went to her because my former person that I was working with, she wasn't taking my insurance anymore, so I had to find a new person. Yep. And so here I go, and this is a black lady. I'm like, okay, she's gonna understand. And she was like, you can't have any of this medication that you've been taking. I'm gonna put you on an antidepressant. And I was like, well, no, I don't want to be on an antidepressant because we went back and forth. And she was like, and she wanted to know what were my concerns. Right. And honestly, being a 32-year-old single woman, not that I'm sexually active right now, but that's a concern because
yes, it is.
Medication can lower your sex drive. And so that's one thing I think was like, no, I may not be with anybody right now, but I also don't want to walk around not feeling like I can't have these emotions. And so
some of them affect your fertility.
Yeah.
I remember being on Topamax for epilepsy at one point, and I get home and there's like tons of commercials about birth defects from Topamax, and I'm like, I haven't even had kids yet. Yeah. And it's miserable. Like my feet would fall asleep in the middle of the day. I would get just groggy. It's terrible. Just imagine being a single young 30-year-old person trying to date, and your options are to take this medication and take the chance of not being able to have a sex life, obviously, or deal with it. Like, that's a hard decision for women to take when you are single and young. Yeah. And even the idea of having issues with fertility. That's I think it's one serious barrier why women choose not to take the medication. Right. And I know for me, that's been the reason why I chose to just not take it. But even like you said, I didn't want to risk starting this medicine and then
feeling like a completely different person.
Yep.
And then having to take 6, 7, 8 months to even get off of it because I wouldn't want to.
A year and a half.
Yeah. So it's like I didn't want to even put myself through that. So I would rather figure out how to deal with it without the medication. But just the idea of being detached sometimes, of not having a sex drive. You know, I'm 32 years old. I don't know if today I don't want to have kids, but tomorrow I may want to have kids. Right. So who knows? Like, I don't want that to be an issue. Right. So.
Oh yeah, definitely. Then the other side of it is dealing with the social part of the medication. Once people figure out that you have this disorder, they want to blame all of your, you know, moments of disagreement with them on the disorder. Or if you're upset about something, it's not because for them, it's not because you have a valid reason to be upset. It's because you didn't take your medication today. Like, that's not something I agree with.
And especially being in a relationship with somebody who have that ammo to use against you, that's even more toxic.
That's toxic.
Yeah. So how is it working on yourself without the help of medication? And then dealing with disappointment from dating. Yeah.
Being totally honest with yourself. Honestly, just realizing that you're not a perfect being. You don't have to portray yourself as a perfect being. Just live in your moments, deal with your moments. And I had to come to the conclusion that people will choose whether to accept you or not.
Yeah.
And there's nothing you can do about it. And that's one thing I had to learn with dating. For a long time, I felt like the measure of who I am as a woman was who my man perceived me as.
Or even just being attached to a man, period.
Or just being attached to somebody measured my worth. And when that went south, you know, I felt worthless. And that's when the depression kicks in. And the isolation, I mean, to the tune of an 80-pound weight gain for me. You know, it's a whole nother pressure. And I'm from Opelousas, Louisiana. We eat. And unfortunately, eating is a thing of medication for me. It's a self-medication for me.
We talked about this a couple podcasts back when we talked about emotional eating. And how that's rooted in stress and trauma and Black women. That's something that we do, but eating is so socially accepted now. Like for me, I will overeat until like I am hurting and continue to eat, knowing I can't breathe, and I'm just like, I'm miserable. Why am I eating? Like, I'm not even phically hungry.
I'm not hungry.
I even feel my stomach exploding, but I need to put more into my mouth. Like, and
honestly, like, let's call it what it is, too. Dating can create forms of PTSD. And it doesn't even have to be physical abuse involved.
No, not at all. Not at all.
You have little things that will remind you of some trauma you went through in this tumultuous relationship, and then you're down the rabbit hole again.
Exactly. Let's talk about when is the right time for you to share your mental illness with somebody you're dating. Do you do it right off the bat, on the first date, before the first date? Do you wait a little while? And what's the pros and cons of doing either?
Honestly, for me, I wait maybe like a month. Because I'm one of those people with a very short attention span. Like, if you can't keep my attention span, it's just not worth it going down that road. But once I realize that, okay, this is somebody that I can, you know, I want to invest time into, emotions into, that's when I have that conversation.
What's the response usually like for you?
It varies on the person. Like, I've had experiences where I shared it and I never heard from them again, you know? But more so like lately, I ended up asking someone that I'm conversing with now about, you know, once I told you about my bipolar disorder, why did you continue to converse with me? And he was basically like, I stayed because I thought it was really, you know, cool. And it took a lot for you to tell me that. And it let me know you were open and comfortable. And that built a layer of trust for us. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. So I firmly just believe in feeling out your own situation. But making sure that you give that person the choice. Of whether or not they want to go down that journey.
Because it is a journey.
And I honestly don't think it's fair for you to experience, you know, go through with this person for a year or two, and then they have to find out that
have them invested, and emotionally attached
with you.
Right. I agree. What's been the hardest thing for you relating to your bipolar depression and dating?
Body standards. The overall beauty standard right now to me is just almost unattainable on a regular basis. Big eyelashes, eyebrows, makeup. I'm sorry. I'm dealing with bipolar disorder and epilepsy at the same time. If I'm having a day where I'm completely depressed, the last thing I care about is my makeup. Yeah. But you go out into the dating and you like, okay, she looks like she just rolled out of bed, blah, 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 and you're standing next to this complete made up Barbie.
Girl, I feel
and you're like, so what's the option here? Is it me or is it you?
It is hard struggling with the idea that maybe my depression is a cause for me not meeting people because I just choose to do whatever sometimes.
And honestly, it is.
Yeah.
But you have to realize what your priorities are at that moment. Mm-hmm. Honestly, if I'm fighting this much with depression, dating might not be a priority for me right now. I have to get me together first.
I was going to ask you that. I was like, so a lot of times, and I feel like depression is fairly common among Black women just because of anxiety and stress and all this.
And the stigma's placed on us.
Yeah, but because there are a lot of Black women out there, or women of color in general, who are maybe not diagnosed, but may be struggling with, symptoms of depression and anxiety. And they may be single and they want to get it out there and date. That's my question. It's like, when you're honest with yourself, do you really feel at this moment this is a good time for you to be connected to somebody emotionally? Because even though we have this like fairy tale idea of meeting somebody, falling in love, like it's work.
Yeah, you have to be prepared for that.
And so it's extra work when you are trying to struggle with your mental health.
Yep.
And then work on the relationship. Not saying it can't be done because there are people out there, but it's a lot. And so I think sometimes people don't really think about the work it takes without damaging somebody else.
Right. You hit it right on the head. Damaging somebody else.
Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of that is growth, I believe, and not being selfish. You don't even realize the emotional roller coaster you're taking them through.
Right.
So at some point you have to be honest with yourself and be like, I don't want to put anybody through that.
Right. They don't deserve that.
No.
You haven't even gotten to know them to the point to see whether or not that's something they can even handle. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, when you're talking about like, are you ready to do that? The reality is you have to deal with yourself first. Yeah. You can't just jump into something and expect, unfortunately, we all send our representative first.
Yes, we do.
And the representative is Perfect Patty. Mm-hmm. And nothing's wrong with you, but there is. Yeah. And you have to address that first. Mm-hmm. If you can't get a handle on what you really want out of life, like if you have some things you need to work through within yourself, you have to prioritize yourself there. Because if you try to throw anybody else or anything else in that mix, you're splitting your attention and to those different things, and that can actually cause more damage to you.
Now, I do want to be clear though, mental health is like an ongoing journey.
Yes. There's not
a moment where it's like, okay, I've got my mental health under control. Now
you don't.
Like it's an ongoing journey. You just have to be so self-aware,
yes,
and willing to compromise and be more accommodating, and understanding the work that it's going to take. Yeah, and then hopefully meeting somebody who's willing to work with you, like and you said, doing that journey,
right? And then coming to the understanding that not everyone will understand.
Yeah, because it's never going to be like, oh, well, I'm good now, I'm good today, right.
And understanding with mental health, there is no end to the journey.
Exactly.
It's just a matter of realizing this is part of your daily routine. This is what you have to do to make sure you stay evenly balanced.
Yeah. Yeah. What are some practical things you do to actually stay in a good space?
I do allow myself to, I call it the grieving process, when a relationship dies or whatever it is. But I give myself 48 hours. Just deal with it like you would traditionally deal with depression, laying in bed, eating the ice cream, blah, 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 blah. But after that 48 hours, it's like, if you stay here in this position, you're going to go right back down that rabbit hole. You're going to gain more weight. Mm-hmm. You're going to blame yourself. You're going to, I don't do that anymore. Mm-hmm. Now it's a matter of, if it's on my mind, I journal it.
Okay.
It's like telling somebody what's going on. You empty your brain, but you don't have to worry about, it's spreading to this person or being misinterpreted here, or having to answer questions about it. Like, I journal it out. Mm-hmm. And then I take walks. I walk a lot. Mm-hmm. Just getting fresh air and releasing endorphins helps a lot. Some people work out, you know. I don't work. I go through phases of working out. Mm-hmm. But one thing I do like to do is walk. I get my workout in without killing myself. Also, I have a great tribe. Like, I have a great village.
That's good.
My mom is like my best friend. We talk. We were like, it took us a while to get to this point, but I can talk to my mom about anything now in my adult life. I have 2 best friends that pretty much go through the same things I go through. So that helps a lot.
Okay.
And the good thing about it is I don't have enablers. When I'm full of it, they tell me I'm full of it. Mm-hmm. And let me tell you, that manic phase in dating is dangerous.
Describe one of those moments where in dating you may have created some chaos in doing the manic phase, and then once that was over, you actually had to deal with those consequences.
Yeah, I had to fix the manic phase. So I had a phase of like manic days where it would be like 3 days of being manic and then coming off. Mm-hmm. And then a couple days later, I'm manic again. And honestly, the manic phase is a happy-go-lucky phase. Everyone likes dealing with a happy person. So they fall in love with this person that's in this manic phase. And they're like, yes, she's here. She's amazing. And then I go into isolation and I need space. And they're like, well, what did I do? Mm-hmm. They start blaming themselves. Mm-hmm. And you like, it's not you. Mm-hmm. It's me. And explaining to someone over and over and over again that it's not you, it's me. But they're interacting with you on your manic days, mm-hmm. and then you don't want to be bothered on your isolated days. It takes a toll on your partner. Mm-hmm. And they're like, I don't know whether I'm coming or going with you. You don't know what you want out of life. But I do. It just doesn't involve this bipolar disorder or this bipolar depression that I'm dealing with.
You talked about some holistic treatment instead of going the medical route.
Right.
What are some of those things that you do to treat your bipolar?
Dieting.
What is your diet like?
It's not great, honestly, but I do know that, eating the saturated fats and the fried foods and that kind of stuff, they bring your energy level down. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And energy is something you need to deal with the bipolar disorder, and you just have to be up for it. Mm-hmm. So in taking care of my body there and watching what I eat here and there now, food is that's my go-to. So I have to be careful with that. But like I said, instead of reacting to things, like I always wait a minute. Mm-hmm. When I want to react to something, I stop and I think, and I'm like, okay, if I react to this like this, this is how it's going to play out. If I react to this like this, this is how it's going to play out.
You sound very clear-headed and insightful when it comes to that, as someone who don't use medical assistance. But for somebody who may not even be at that point, what are some things they can do?
Honestly, when you feel like you need to react, remove yourself from that environment. Mm-hmm. It's not about running away. It's not about being a coward. It's literally about taking time to assess the situation, and see if it's even worth dealing with. Evaluating yourself. Mm-hmm. When you woke up that morning, were you in this negative space? Yeah. Or did this moment take you to that negative space? Was it a trigger for you? It's a lot of questions I have to ask myself in dealing with day-to-day things.
So what are some of your worries, your thoughts, your fears, just the self-criticisms that you deal with, that you get caught up in those moments of either your manic or depressed state in regards to dating?
Feeling like I'm not enough. That just when people decide to go away, sometimes it's a matter of, okay, is it me? Was I not enough? What What am I missing? You know, asking myself those questions, that's a major part of it. And I will be the first to say that some days I do feel like I'm not enough. But I also convince myself that this day is only 24 hours long and I'm going to go to sleep and I have another chance to start over again. You know, I pray about it a lot. I'm very rooted in my faith. So when I can't find the answers or I'm feeling inadequate, I run to my Bible head first. You know, I run to church.
I want to add something to that because I agree with you, but also understanding that even when you are at that point, that you're going to have some extremely hard days and you're going to have days where you are very hard on yourself.
Yes.
And that's the process. I know for me, that's the process where I have to kind of push past. Because in regards to dating, I'm having those moments. I would ignore phone calls for weeks on end. Yep. Or, you know, or I would be like, you know, yeah, we can go out Friday night. And I do this with my friends all the time. Any friend who knows me, hope sometimes may not be reliable. Like, that's part of it for me.
The thing is, you're honest with yourself about it.
Yeah. At this point, there's no point in lying.
There's no point.
And so I know that stuff like that for me, it really does affect dating for me.
But the craziest thing is we know within ourselves, like, I know I'm this way. Some days I feel like this and I'm not going to do this, but we commit to certain things. And then when someone else, you know, lets us go, you're like, they're so inconsistent. Yeah. When the reality is we're the inconsistent.
Yeah. I try to manage expectations with guys I date. I don't know how good I am at that, but it's hard. Honestly,
the right one is gonna understand.
I knew you were gonna say that, but you know what? I think what part of that for me is
he's gonna show up on your door one day with pizza,
okay,
like Netflix and chill.
What can you tell someone who is single, and working through those emotions and trying to maintain a healthy dating life?
The best thing you can do for yourself is embrace yourself at every stage of life. If you are depressed, embrace that moment, realize what it is, and figure out what it is that you have to do to get out of it. Just once I got to the point of embracing myself at 204 pounds, you know, at 5'2", like I look like just a butterball to myself, you know, but I'm like, oh, you're a beautiful butterball. Like, you know, just like embrace yourself, live by your own timeline.
Yeah.
Like, don't let anybody else force, you're this age, you need to be doing this. Nope. If you're not mentally ready for it, you don't need to be doing it. You need to be doing what you're ready for.
Yeah.
You know, take your time. Figure out what's important to you, what your end goal is, and make an action plan. If you can get an action plan going for yourself, you can knock out so many things. And honestly, it will pull you out of depression. Just setting small goals. Honestly, my goals have been so small to the point where at times it's like my goal was to get out of bed before 11 o'clock. That was my whole goal for the day. But small goals like that lead to bigger goals, and it leads to progress, and you eventually come out of it.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that you might not fall back into it for another reason, but at least you have a method of getting out of it.
Yeah. You're right. That's good. I would say my advice to ladies out there, especially in regards to dating, is give yourself time. I agree with you. Like, don't try to put this pressure on you to need to be connected, because the right person is going to show up, or you're going to put yourself in a position where you meet the right person eventually, and they will understand. So don't feel like you have to walk out the door looking beautiful every single day.
Thank you.
And hoping to meet somebody and then come back home disappointed when you don't. Let that expectation go. And I think another good thing is just allow yourself those breaks. Yeah. So even when you do set those small goals, you may find yourself in a rhythm, and then you may sit down for a minute, and then somehow you've laid down for an hour. And that's okay. Just you have to start all over again and find another small thing to do, and then work your way back through that rhythm.
Right.
And eventually things will get done. And then maybe the next day you don't even have that issue.
Make a to-do list too.
Yeah.
If you make a to-do list, if you keep looking at this list of unchecked off things, eventually you're going to move.
Yeah, or you have to.
You have to move.
Yeah, you have to.
But the reality is, even when you do these little tasks, you get a feeling of accomplishment.
Yeah.
And when it comes to bipolar depression or, depression, anxiety in general, a lot of that comes from feelings of failure. Mm-hmm. If you feeling like, you checking off your day-to-day tasks of things that you actually do need to do, you get that sense of, hey, I'm kind of winning here. I won something today. I have this theory called earning my sleep. Because I'm always tired. I'm always exhausted. Yep. And I'm like, okay, before I get in this bed, what did I do today? Did I do enough for me to actually justify getting in this bed and going to sleep? Mm-hmm. Did I earn my sleep today? That's how I gauge my day.
That's good. For anyone out there who is struggling with anything mental illness related, and you are also struggling, trying to maneuver this dating scene, hit me up. Let's talk at hopeandher.com. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, let me know, and maybe we can discuss it in the group on Facebook. Well, that's all I have. Thank you again for joining me.
No problem.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the My Lotus Moments podcast with Hope. If you enjoyed this episode, share the Apple Podcast with a friend or someone you know who needs it. And please take a few minutes to rate and review the show, because that is how other people find us. And if you're talking about this episode online, don't forget to use the hashtag MyLotusMoments and tag me at JustMoreHope on Instagram and Twitter. Until next time, thanks for listening.